This is one of the most surprising things that's ever happened to me, and it changed the way I see the world. My 36 male wife, Sasha, 34 female, cheated on me with my childhood best friend, and I'm feeling completely lost and broken right now. Let me give you some context. Sasha and I have been married for 8 years, and we've had our ups and downs like any couple. But overall, I thought we were solid. My best friend, let's call him Mike, 36M, and I have known each other since kindergarten. We've been through everything together. School, college, heartbreaks, you name it. He's practically family. A couple of weeks ago, Mike had some trouble at home. He had a huge fight with his girlfriend and needed a place to crash for a few days. Of course, I offered our place. We have a couch in the living room on the first floor, while our bedroom is on the second floor. It seemed like a simple arrangement. I thought nothing of it, figuring it was just a temporary thing until he sorted things out. For the first 2 nights, everything seemed normal. But on the third night, I woke up to find Sasha wasn't in bed. I didn't think much of it at first, assuming she went to the bathroom or something. But she was gone for a while, and a weird feeling started gnawing at me. When she finally came back, I asked if everything was okay, and she said she just couldn't sleep and went downstairs for some water. That should have been my first red flag, but I brushed it off as me being paranoid. Over the next few days, though, something felt off. Sasha was acting strange, more distant, more secretive with her phone. But I still didn't put the pieces together. I guess I didn't want to believe it. Then, last night happened. Mike and I went out to a bar to catch up and blow off some steam. We were drinking, laughing, and reminiscing about old times. He kept buying me drinks, and before I knew it, I was completely hammered. That's when he dropped the bombshell. He looked at me with this guilty expression and said he had to confess something. He told me that on the second night he stayed with us, Sasha came downstairs and gave him a blowjob. He said he didn't resist because he was drunk and stupid. My world came crashing down right then and there. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My best friend and my wife, how could they do this to me? I lost it. I tried to hit him, but in my drunken state, I was no match for him. The bouncer saw us fighting and threw us both out of the bar. We stood outside, Mike looking remorseful and me barely able to stand. I fell to the ground, overcome with anger and sadness. Mike kept apologizing, saying it was a mistake, that he was sorry. He called a taxi for me, and I somehow made it home. I stumbled into the house and collapsed on the couch, my mind spinning. I couldn't face Sasha, so I just passed out there. This morning she left for work, none the wiser about what had happened the night before. After the bar incident, I went through a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, sadness, betrayal, everything was hitting me at once. I felt like I needed to do something to take control, to hit back somehow. That's when I came up with the idea of getting revenge on Sasha by sleeping with a prostitute. Yeah, I know it was a stupid idea, but at that moment, it seemed like a way to even the score. So, one night, I found myself driving to a shady part of town. I picked up a woman who seemed willing and took her to a cheap motel, but when we got to the room and she started undressing, I couldn't go through with it. The whole situation felt wrong. I broke down and ended up just talking to her for hours, spilling my guts about everything that had happened. Surprisingly, she was compassionate and listened to my whole story. She even refused to take my money in the end, saying I needed it more than she did. I left the motel feeling ashamed and more lost than ever. Realizing revenge wasn't the answer, I decided to talk to a lawyer about getting a divorce. I didn't know the first thing about divorce proceedings, and I wanted to make sure I did everything right. The lawyer told me that Mike's confession wouldn't be enough evidence for a divorce. I needed solid proof of the affair. This was disheartening because it meant I had to live with Sasha a little longer, pretending everything was okay while I gathered what I needed. Desperation makes people do crazy things. I decided to set a trap to catch Sasha and Mike in the act. I invited Mike over to talk, hoping I could get him to help me. We sat in my living room, the tension thick between us. Mike was remorseful, saying he didn't know if I'd ever forgive him, but he was willing to do anything to make things right. I told him about my plan to set up cameras in the house and asked him to come over when I was supposedly away to see if Sasha would take the bait. He agreed, although he looked hesitant. I set up cameras in the living room and the hallway leading to our bedroom. The next day, I told Sasha I had to work late and wouldn't be home until midnight. Mike came over, and I watched everything from a hidden camera feed on my phone. At first, they just talked, and I thought maybe my plan wouldn't work. But then things started to heat up. Sasha led Mike towards the living room, but then she took him to another part of the house away from the cameras. My heart sank. I couldn't see or hear what was happening, but I knew they were together. My plan had failed. Feeling ashamed and hurt, not knowing what to do next, I decided to get drunk. I figured a few drinks would numb the pain, but instead of finding solace, I just felt more miserable. I got into my car, thinking I'd drive home quickly to confront them and maybe catch them in the act on my phone. But on the way, I lost control of the car and crashed into a tree. I don't remember much after that, just the sound of metal crunching and the pain in my head. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. I had a severe head injury and felt completely helpless and worthless. All I could think about was how my life had spiraled out of control. Lying in that hospital bed, I felt like a shell of the person I used to be. The doctors and nurses were kind, but their pitying looks made me feel even worse. Sasha came to visit me, but I asked the doctors not to let her in. I couldn't face her, not after everything that had happened. I knew she was worried and probably feeling guilty, but I didn't care. I needed space to figure out my next steps without her presence complicating things further. And now, here I am, writing this from my hospital bed. I don't know what to do. I feel like my world has fallen apart, and I'm just sitting here, drowning in the rubble. I was lying in my hospital bed, still reeling from the accident and everything that had led up to it. I felt utterly helpless. Then some doctors came in and told me a guy wanted to see me. I didn't want to see anyone, but they said he insisted, so I agreed, thinking it might be someone from work or a relative. To my surprise, it was Mike. Yeah, the same Mike who had slept with my wife. I didn't want to talk to him. Seeing his face made me sick. But he walked in looking all upbeat, carrying a basket of fruit. He asked if I was okay, if I needed anything, and then, as if nothing had happened, he casually asked, "Did you get the recording? Did it work out? Do you have the dirt now?" I couldn't believe it. This guy had the nerve to come here and talk about that. I shouted at him, "No, nothing worked out. You went to a place where there was no camera." He looked taken aback, mumbling some apologies before he left. I could barely keep my composure. I wanted to punch him, but I was too weak to even sit up straight. After he left, I turned on my phone and started reviewing everything from the past 2 days. It was painful, reliving those moments, but then I saw it. Yes, it was perfectly clear how my friend was having oral sex with my wife, the mother of my children. The sight of it made me sick to my stomach. How could she do this to me? How could they both betray me like this? Seeing that video sparked something inside me. I felt a burning need for revenge. It wasn't enough to just divorce her. I wanted her to feel the same pain and humiliation she had caused me. That's when I started devising a plan. I found out that Sasha was planning a party for my return from the hospital. She probably thought it would be a good way to smooth things over, to show everyone how much she cared for me. The irony of it all was almost laughable. So I came up with an idea that would make sure she never forgot the consequences of her actions. I took a screenshot of the video where my wife was giving Mike a blowjob and got it printed on t-shirts. Believe it or not, it was quite difficult to get that print done. Every printing shop I went to refused to do it, citing all sorts of reasons. But I was determined. Finally, I found a small shop that didn't ask too many questions. I paid extra and convinced them it was a prank or something. The day of the party arrived. Sasha had decorated the house, invited our friends and family, and was playing the perfect wife. I arrived and everyone shouted, "Surprise!" We chatted a bit. I thanked everyone, then stood on the couch and started thanking everyone again, especially my wife. I told them I had a surprise for them and asked my cousin to hand out the t-shirts. They were wrapped in black cellophane. You should have seen their faces when they started opening my gifts. The shock, the confusion, the horror, it was all there. Sasha's face turned white as a sheet. My so-called friend Mike was there too. He had been trying to restore our friendship, thinking it might work out. But no, I don't forgive cheating. As soon as he saw the shirts, he bolted out of the house like a coward. Sasha ran out too, but she didn't have the car keys. She came back inside, grabbed the keys and drove off. But here's the thing. I didn't see any remorse on her face. There was no regret, no apology. All I saw was anger directed at me. like I was the one who had done something wrong. It was mind-blowing. Everyone else was in shock. Friends, family. They didn't know what to say or do. Some tried to comfort me, but most just left, not knowing how to handle the situation. Now, I'm sitting in the bathroom, smoking and writing about my adventure. I'm crying a bit. I won't lie. It's anonymous anyway, so I'm not ashamed to talk about my true emotions. This whole ordeal has left me feeling more broken than I ever thought possible. I feel betrayed, humiliated, and utterly alone. I don't know what my next steps are. Divorce seems inevitable, but beyond that, I have no idea how to rebuild my life. How do you start over when everything you believed in turns out to be a lie? I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do next. Part of me wants to disappear, to leave everything behind and start fresh somewhere new. Another part of me wants to fight, to get back at Sasha and Mike in every way possible. But revenge is a double-edged sword, and I'm not sure if it will bring me the closure I need. Hey Reddit, I'm back with another update. That same night after I wrote the previous update, Sasha wasn't home. She had left in a rage after the t-shirt incident, and it wasn't clear where she had gone. I was sitting in the bathroom, trying to calm myself down and figure out my next steps. Around midnight, I heard some noise downstairs. At first, I thought maybe Sasha had come back drunk and decided to crash on the couch, but the noise didn't stop, and I started hearing what sounded like voices. Curious and a bit apprehensive, I got up and crept to the top of the stairs. The noise suddenly stopped, and I thought maybe I was just hearing things. But then, about 10 minutes later, I heard Sasha moaning. My heart dropped into my stomach. I rushed downstairs, and there she was, having sex with a tall black guy right there on our couch. The sight made my blood boil. I didn't think. I just reacted. I grabbed the gun we keep in the kitchen drawer and pointed it at the guy. "If you don't get out of my house right now, I'll put a bullet in your forehead," I shouted. The guy scrambled to his feet, grabbing his clothes and running out the door without a second glance. Sasha, drunk and barely able to comprehend what was happening, just lay there, naked and disheveled. Of course, the commotion woke up the kids. They came running out of their rooms and saw their mother lying naked on the couch. It was a nightmare. The look on their faces was something I'll never forget. I quickly covered Sasha with a blanket and ushered the kids back to their rooms, telling them everything would be okay. But how could it be? How could anything ever be okay again? I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in the living room, keeping an eye on Sasha to make sure she didn't do anything else stupid. When the sun finally started to rise, I decided to go for a run to clear my head. Running has always been my escape, a way to think through my problems and find some semblance of peace. But that morning, no amount of running could shake the image of Sasha with that guy from my mind. As I was jogging, my phone rang. It was Sasha's parents, who live in another state. They had always despised me, and I wasn't surprised when they started defending their daughter. They accused me of driving her to this behavior, saying I wasn't a good husband and that I should have done more to make her happy. Their words stung, but I didn't have the energy to argue. I just listened, letting their accusations wash over me. When I got back home, Sasha was awake and looking miserable. I told her she needed to leave, that I couldn't have her in the house anymore after everything that had happened. But she refused. She said it was her house too, and she wasn't going anywhere. I decided to use legal methods to try and get her out, but the lawyer told me that I had no right to kick her out of the house, even after infidelity. We needed to go to court to sort everything out, which could take months. So there we were, stuck in the same house, neither of us willing to leave. The tension was unbearable. Every interaction turned into a fight, and it wasn't long before things got physical. One night, Sasha threw a glass at me, shattering it against the wall. I grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her and shouting for her to get a grip. She slapped me across the face, and I pushed her away, storming out of the room. We've had several intense conflicts like this, and I'm worried it's only going to get worse. The kids are caught in the middle, and I hate that they have to see us like this. I'm trying to shield them from the worst of it, but there's only so much I can do. They know something is wrong, and it's breaking my heart to see the confusion and fear in their eyes. Hey Reddit, I'm back. After all the chaos and the constant fighting at home, shit started to go wrong at work too. It started with whispers behind my back, people giving me weird looks. Then it escalated. Colleagues began openly mocking me, calling me a cuckold. The gossip about Sasha's infidelity had spread, and everyone seemed to have their own version of the story. It was humiliating. I tried to keep my head down and focus on my work, but the constant jabs and jokes were too much to bear. I couldn't take it anymore. I quit my job, handed in my resignation, packed up my desk, and walked out without looking back. It felt like another piece of my life was falling apart, but I couldn't stay in that toxic environment any longer. Leaving the job was a blow because it was my only escape from the nightmare at home. Now, without work, I had even more time to dwell on everything that was happening. In the midst of all this chaos, I made a decision. Once I won in court and finalized the divorce, I would sell everything and move to another city. A fresh start was the only way to escape the constant reminders of betrayal and heartbreak. I needed to get away from Sasha, Mike, and all the memories tied to this place. I wanted to give my kids a chance at a new life, away from the scandal and shame. But before I could make any concrete plans, more drama unfolded. Sasha's parents decided to visit. They live in another state, so their arrival was a big deal. I was out picking up some things when they showed up, and by the time I got home, they were already settled in. They immediately started defending Sasha, saying things like, "Maybe you didn't satisfy her in bed, that's why she went to another man." Their words cut deep, but I tried to keep my cool. It didn't last long. Her father kept pushing, and I could feel my temper rising. Finally, I snapped. We started arguing, and before I knew it, he tried to hit me. I've been boxing for about 8 years and even won a few tournaments, so my reflexes kicked in. I countered his punch without thinking, just like in the movies. Blood poured from his nose like a fountain, staining everything. It was a nightmare. No one was happy about this, and they left in a huff. I really hoped Sasha would go with them, but she didn't. I felt ashamed that I hit her father, even if it was in self-defense. The whole situation was spiraling out of control, and I felt helpless to stop it. As you can imagine, the scandal wasn't just affecting me. My kids started being teased at school too. They came home crying, saying other kids were calling them names and making fun of them because of what happened. It broke my heart to see them suffering because of our mess. One time, Sasha went to pick up the kids from school, and it ended very badly. Half the school started laughing, pointing fingers, and shouting bad words at her. The humiliation was too much. Sasha came home in tears, and the kids were traumatized. I knew then that we needed to leave the city as quickly as possible. Living under the same roof with Sasha was unbearable. Every day was a new conflict, and the tension was suffocating. We had to coexist because neither of us could leave the house until the court settled things. It was a never-ending nightmare, and I was desperate for a way out. One morning, I woke up to find Sasha in the kitchen, making breakfast like everything was normal. It was surreal. How could she pretend everything was okay after everything that happened? I ignored her and grabbed my coffee, my mind racing with thoughts of our impending move. I had to start looking for a new job, a new house, and a new school for the kids. It was overwhelming, but it gave me a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could leave this nightmare behind and find some semblance of peace. I spent the next few days researching different cities, looking for a place where we could start over, somewhere far enough away that we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. It was exhausting, but it gave me something to focus on. Sasha's attitude didn't help. She was angry and bitter, blaming me for everything that went wrong. She refused to leave the house, and every conversation turned into a fight. The lawyer told me I couldn't force her out, not without a court order. So, we were stuck, living in this toxic environment, waiting for the legal process to play out. The kids were the only reason I kept going. Seeing their faces every day reminded me of what was at stake. They didn't deserve any of this. They needed stability, love, and a chance to grow up without the shadow of our failed marriage hanging over them. I was determined to give them that, no matter what it took. One night, after another argument with Sasha, I went for a walk to clear my head. The streets were quiet, and the cool night air helped calm my nerves. I thought about everything that had happened, from the moment I found out about the affair to the constant fights and the humiliation at work. It felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. As I walked, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. I had to make a change for my sake and for the kids. I needed to find a way to get Sasha out of the house, to finalize the divorce, and to move on with my life. It wouldn't be easy, but I had to try. The next day, I called my lawyer and told him everything that had happened. He agreed that the situation was untenable and promised to expedite the court proceedings as much as possible. It was a small comfort, but it was a step in the right direction. In the meantime, I started packing up the house. I went through our belongings, sorting out what to keep and what to get rid of. It was a painful process, filled with memories of happier times. But it was also cathartic. Each box I packed brought me one step closer to leaving this nightmare behind. Sasha didn't make it easy. She fought me every step of the way, refusing to cooperate and making things as difficult as possible. But I didn't let her get to me. I kept my focus on the future, on the new life I was trying to build for myself and the kids. Hey Reddit, I'm back with another update. Last week, I had my final meeting with the lawyer before the court date. I was nervous as hell, my stomach doing flips. My lawyer, a tough-as-nails guy named Dan, went over everything one last time. He reassured me we had a solid case, but I couldn't shake the anxiety. He explained how the proceedings would go, what to expect, and how to handle Sasha's inevitable theatrics. He reminded me to keep my cool, stick to the facts, and not let her get under my skin. Easier said than done, but I appreciated his confidence. He was like a general prepping his soldier for battle. The day before court, I was a wreck. I tried to keep myself busy, packing up more of the house and making arrangements for the kids. I didn't want them around for any of this, so I arranged for them to stay with my sister for a few days. She's been a rock through all of this, and I knew they'd be safe and cared for with her. Sasha, of course, was sulking around the house, throwing me dirty looks and muttering under her breath. I ignored her as best as I could, focusing on the tasks at hand. The night before, I barely slept. My mind was racing, replaying everything that had happened and worrying about what was to come. I kept thinking about the kids, how all this turmoil was affecting them, and praying that this would be the start of a better life for us. Around 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went for a run to clear my head. The streets were empty, and the cool air helped calm my nerves a bit. An hour before court, I was pacing around the house, trying to keep myself together. Dan had told me to meet him at the courthouse 30 minutes early, so I had some time to kill. Sasha was in the kitchen, looking smug as ever. She tried to start another fight, but I wasn't biting. I just grabbed my things and left, heading to the courthouse early to avoid any more drama. Walking into the courthouse was surreal. It felt like stepping into another world, one where all the bullshit of the past few months was finally going to be addressed. Dan was waiting for me, looking calm and collected. He gave me a reassuring nod and a quick rundown of what to expect. Sasha showed up a few minutes later, flanked by her parents. They shot me dirty looks, but I ignored them, focusing on the task at hand. The beginning of the court session was tense. Sasha's lawyer started off by painting me as the villain, accusing me of driving her to infidelity and being an unfit husband. It was hard to keep my cool, but I stuck to Dan's advice. When it was our turn, Dan presented our case with precision and clarity. He laid out the evidence of the affair, the impact it had on our family, and my efforts to keep things as stable as possible for the kids. Sasha tried to interrupt several times, but the judge wasn't having it. The hours dragged on, but finally, the end of the court session arrived. The judge took a recess to deliberate, and those minutes felt like an eternity. When he returned, he ruled in my favor. I had won. The house would be mine, and Sasha would have to leave. The kids would stay with me, and we'd finally have a chance to rebuild our lives. But of course, Sasha didn't take the ruling well. When we got home, she refused to leave. She locked herself in the bedroom, screaming and throwing things. I tried to talk to her, to reason with her, but it was useless. Finally, I had no choice but to call the police. They arrived quickly and managed to get her out of the house without too much trouble. It was heartbreaking to see things come to this, but it was the only way. With Sasha gone, I focused on getting the kids settled. We packed up the essentials and moved in with my sister temporarily while I sorted out the logistics of selling the house and finding a new place. The kids were confused and scared, but I reassured them that this was the start of a new adventure, a chance to make new memories and leave the bad ones behind. Moving was chaotic, but it felt like a weight was lifting off my shoulders with each box we packed. My sister and her husband were incredible, helping with the kids and keeping them distracted while I dealt with everything else. It was a whirlwind of paperwork, packing, and planning, but I could finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. We found a new house in a different city, far enough away that we wouldn't run into anyone we knew, but close enough that the kids could still visit their friends and family. It was a small, cozy place, perfect for a fresh start. The kids were excited about their new rooms, and I was excited about the chance to rebuild our lives from scratch. The first few days in the new house were a mix of emotions. There was relief, but also a lingering sadness. I was happy to be away from Sasha and all the drama, but it was hard not to think about everything we had lost. The kids were adjusting, making new friends, and settling into their new school. They seemed happier, more relaxed, and it gave me hope that we were on the right path. One evening, as I was unpacking the last of the boxes, I found an old photo album. Flipping through the pages, I saw pictures of happier times, family vacations, birthday parties, holidays. It was bittersweet, but it reminded me of the good times we had, and it fueled my determination to create new, better memories for the kids and me. We've started to build a new routine, and things are slowly falling into place. The kids are thriving, and I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. I know we have a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future. I'm still working on healing and moving on, but I'm taking it one day at a time, and I'm grateful for the support and advice I've received from all of you on Reddit. Your words have helped me through some of the darkest times, and for that, I can't thank you enough. Hey Reddit, it's been a while since my last update, and I wanted to let you know where things stand a year later. If you missed my previous posts, my wife Sasha, 34 female, cheated on me with my childhood best friend Mike, 36 male. Things went downhill fast, but life has a way of moving on, whether we're ready or not. Here's what's been happening. A lot can change in a year. Sasha met another man and is already pregnant. I won't lie, it stung when I first heard the news. But honestly, I wish her all the best. Time heals even the deepest wounds, and I've come to realize that holding on to anger and bitterness only hurts me. She seems happy, and if this new guy is the one for her, then good for them. People deserve to find happiness, even if it's not with each other. As for Mike, we've managed to reconcile. I know it sounds crazy, given everything that happened, but he proved his loyalty to me over time. He admitted what he did was a huge mistake and never tried to deny it. From the moment he told me about the affair, he owned up to it and took full responsibility. It took a lot of apologies and a lot of effort on his part, but I believe him when he says he's sorry. Sometimes people mess up, and if they're genuinely remorseful, they deserve a second chance. We've slowly rebuilt our friendship, and it's actually stronger now because it's built on honesty. Since Sasha found out she was pregnant, she hasn't visited the kids at all. It breaks my heart for them. They deserve to have their mother in their lives, but she's chosen a different path. I don't know if it's the pregnancy or her new relationship that's keeping her away, but the bottom line is, she's not here for them. They ask about her sometimes, and it's tough to explain why she's not around. I try to be both mom and dad, but it's not the same. The kids need a mother figure, and I've come to realize that. It's harsh, but it's the reality we're living in. So I've decided to try and find someone who can take on that role. It's not about replacing Sasha. It's about giving my kids the love and support they deserve. They need a stable, loving environment, and I can't do it alone. I've started dating again, which is a weird and sometimes awkward experience after being married for so long. But I'm hopeful. There are good people out there, and I'm determined to find someone who fits into our lives and loves my kids as much as I do. In addition to sorting out my personal life, I've made some big changes in my professional life too. After quitting my toxic job, I took some time to figure out what I really wanted to do. I realized that my passion for boxing could be more than just a hobby. It could be a career. So I took a leap of faith and opened my own boxing club. It was a huge risk, but it's turned out to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. The boxing club has become pretty popular in the community. We offer classes for all ages and skill levels, and it's been amazing to see people of all backgrounds coming together to train and improve. My sons have started practicing boxing too, and it's been incredible to bond with them over something I love. They're getting stronger and more confident every day, and I couldn't be prouder. Finding my dream job and turning my passion into a thriving business has given me a sense of purpose I didn't know I was missing. The club isn't just a place to work out, it's a community. We've built a supportive environment where people can come to relieve stress, learn new skills, and find a sense of belonging. I've made new friends, and the club has become a second family to me. I've also picked up some new hobbies. I've started hiking on the weekends, exploring trails, and enjoying the peace and quiet of nature. It's been a great way to clear my head and stay grounded. The kids come with me sometimes, and we've had some great adventures together. We've discovered beautiful spots, had picnics by rivers, and made memories that will last a lifetime. Thank you to everyone who's followed my story, offered advice, and supported me through this journey. Your words have been a lifeline during some of the darkest times, and I can't express how much it's meant to me. Life is still a work in progress, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future. So here we are, a year later. The journey isn't over, but we're moving forward. Thanks for listening, for being there, and for reminding me that even in the toughest times, we're never truly alone. Wish me luck, Reddit. Here's to new beginnings.